Pat, Lattice has been a multi-quarter darling of this chip run and chip glut, and then this chip shortage, and frankly, it was a company that I think we credited, Jim Anderson and his leadership team with running extremely well throughout tumultuous times, getting into the right markets, really creating a strong lead in the low end FPGA space, and the company had another good quarter, record revenue. Now, note it was slower growth, slower sequential, good margin performance, solid year-on-year earnings per share. But like so many companies, sometimes the kind of that growth beat raise musical chairs game does stop. This was the quarter where that music did stop for the first time, and I think it was like a dozen quarters. The guide was conservatively and down for the company, and this is really associated with the industrials. Say that again. The company has rallied with the strength of industrial, but we actually saw in Qualcomm's numbers, which you'll talk about, Silicon Labs numbers, which were both IoT, industrial, and that market just got clobbered. Now, frankly, not the case for Lattice, which had solid performance, but it did slow. And that slowing is what's causing the conservative guidance, and that conservative guidance caused sort of a pretty negative reaction on Wall Street. But coming out of these earnings, I just got to say, Pat, I think the company's really well positioned. I think they've been conservative, they've guided correctly, they've been building the right products, they've been getting into areas like AI, FPGAs for things like computer vision and other in critical designs for security, in laptops, in automotive, in servers. And the company's also expanding into that middle class. It feels like a middle class of FPGAs that doesn't really exist in a significant way. You kind of have that really high end, the Xilinx part of the market, the PSG part of Intel that's spinning off. But on the lower to middle end, Lattice seems really well positioned to gain market share. It's really just ramping. It's Avant product. And so, while of course we always want the guide up, the drill, Pat, beat, raise, beat, raise. The music can't go forever, but I actually think overall it was a solid quarter amidst some pretty significant headwinds. And if you saw that jobs report that came out today, I think we're going to find out at some point that a lot of the data we've been getting is horse poo-poo for a while now. The feeling in the market isn't nearly as good as what I'm actually seeing in the market, and starting to see some of these slowdowns, some slightly weaker guides, is probably a good thing. And also starting to see turns in some of the things that have been incredibly weak over the last few quarters, years, is also a good sign, because we know the economy is cyclical.
Dan, you left me a little air, not a lot, but
fun. You like to talk about anything you want.
No, listen. None of this is self-inflicted, other than if you look at 14 quarters of revenue, gross margin, EPS, and operating profit improvements as self-inflicted. The markets that are down, they were down in, and there's really, they've done a decent job making up increasing market share, and B, getting into brand new markets that so far, don't yawn on me, buddy, they've been able to overcome, at least eat the yawn, geez. It's like, oh, it's so interesting. But listen, 5G telecom, down, not a shock, right? All of IoT, first it was the consumer IoT, and then it was the industrial IoT, right? Auto, up with many automakers, except for Tesla, as we saw with on semiconductor. So great lineup. They're increasing their TAM with Avant by at least 50%. And so it's not like some big conundrum of where they're going to get their growth from. Markets go up, they're going to go up. They're going to continue to gain market share in areas that their competitors have left uncovered, and even areas where they're converting a low-end processor or a microcontroller to an FPGA. So all in all, I'm not panicked, and nobody else should be. I don't trade in the stock. I don't trade in any of our paid clients or anybody I've signed an NDA with.